In this edition of Low Carb Paleo Show, we interview Dr. Shauna Young. Now, Shauna is a naturopath, and that means that she helps people get well by using only natural processes. One area where she has had remarkable success is in treating people with autism. I say people because it's something that can affect people from any age, although most of the time we are used to talking about autistic children. In fact, the success stories that Shauna relates in this program are just so heart-touching that I have to confess that if you were watching the video, you would see tears in my eyes because they really do touch your heart. The sad and annoying part of this whole story is that the large organisations that rake in not just millions but even billions every year for the treatment of autism are trying to quash the success that Shauna has had. It seems they're more mindful of their income than they are of the well-being of people with autism. This is a long interview. It's an hour and 3/4 long, but I do urge you to listen to it, maybe not all at once, but really do listen to it, because the information that Shauna presents isn't applicable just for people with autism. It's for people with many different types of health problems. And even if they don't relate to you, we are sure that they will relate to somebody you know. And just by passing on this information, you could be helping change someone's life. So let's join Alan and Shauna in the studio now and find out more about the remarkable things that she has accomplished.
Good morning, Dr. Shauna, and thank you for being on the Low Carb Paleo Show today.
My pleasure.
Hello, Mark. How are you today?
Wonderful, thank you, Anna. Wonderful.
Good. Nice to hear you're still alive.
Oh yes, I sort of managed to do that most mornings. Waking up alive is always a good start to the day.
It's what my mom always says. I'm awake and able to take nourishment. So here you go.
Right. Good. Dr. Shauna, I was at the Paleo FX 2014 in Austin, and I was impressed by the care you show for your patients in your presentation. Hope is on your plate, but I'd like to get back to that in a moment. First, can you give us a little background about yourself and how you got into this business?
Oh, into being a naturopath? Well, first of all, I want to be clear, there's different kinds of naturopaths, and what I am is called a traditional naturopath, which means that I do not work with any invasive procedures, no, medicines, not even x-rays or anything, not even testing procedures that would be considered invasive. So I'm a very traditional naturopath. That is called, when I got my degree originally, that was called a naturopathic doctor. Now they're calling it a certified traditional naturopath. They keep trying to change the face of what a naturopath is and does. So I have to keep changing my title, which is getting a bit expensive on printing the business cards, but oh well. So I originally got into natural medicine. I was very, very interested in it since the about the mid 80s. I'm from Los Angeles originally, and I was in the film business at the time. And when the AIDS epidemic started, and unless you were there, it's hard to imagine what it was like. It was terrifying. Everybody was sick and nobody knew why, and it was incredible. And I started working with a Chinese doctor who was a natural doctor to try and see if there was anything that could be done to help all of these people. And he said something all those years ago, back in 1982, that really stuck in my head. And I asked him if he knew anything about this, this HIV virus and all that. And he said, white people are so stupid they'll die of anything. I said, all right. And I said, what does that mean? And he said, it's a virus. He said, a virus is a virus is a virus. You use antivirals on viruses and viruses go away, period. And he said, they're trying to isolate a gene and, do this study and all this stuff. And he said, just throw antivirals at it and just be done, And that I thought, all right, yeah, certainly cutting to the chase, isn't it? So I started studying natural medicine on my own as much as I could, and I studied all different types: Chinese medicine, Ayurvedics, Native American medicine, all kinds of things like that. And then I was living in, many years later, I was living in Nashville and got Lyme's disease. And I had never had a vaccination or an antibiotic or anything like that in my entire life. And I didn't want to start then. So I went, okay, a bacteria is a bacteria is a bacteria. Kill it with antibacterials. So I started using antibacterials and at the same time doing a liver cleanse, lymph cleanse, bowel cleanse. And 3 months later, no more Lyme's disease. So I thought, people might be interested in this. And I actually did some research and went back to school. Did a lot of research on what school I would want to go to, and decided to go to one that was very, very traditional, because that's me. I'm just not. I think invasive medicine is necessary and at some point needed to be done by some people, but I don't want that to be me. So I just became a traditional naturopath. I chose Colorado to open my practice because Colorado was what they called a right of freedom state at the time, when natural medicine was protected under the laws. So I moved to Colorado, started a small practice, started about 600 square feet, hung my little shingle out and hoped, beyond hope, that people would start coming in, and they did. I had a very, very sick lady come in less than a month, and I started into practice, and she was told she had 3 to 6 weeks to live. And 3 months later, when she walked back into church, I had 52 new clients the next day. But they were all very sick, unfortunately. But that was how I started my practice. I expanded it, and then now I have been in practice for about 13 years now.
Great. I've noticed that you keep on saying traditional naturopath. Is there a difference?
Yes, there's 2 different types of naturopaths right now, and it mostly came down to insurance. There is what is called a traditional naturopath, which is me, and like I said, I just use natural substances, mostly food and water, quite frankly. I'm not even a great, huge supplement provider, although I do, certainly do that. What happened is there's a group of people that call themselves naturopathic physicians, and they wanted to be able to take insurance and be primary care physicians. So they do minor surgical rotations, they take x-rays, they do invasive testing, they prescribe antibiotics, antidepressants, various drugs and that kind of stuff. Now, I don't know how they can call themselves a naturopath when they prescribe drugs, quite frankly, but that's what they're doing, and they have a lot more money than we do, and a much bigger lobby than we do, and they want to get rid of the traditional naturopaths because that it represents too much choice, for people. So they figure if they can outlaw us, then they can get our clients. And just in Colorado, there's about 17,000 traditional naturopaths. And there's probably less than 200 of the naturopathic physicians.
So you've got a minority that is trying to dictate to the majority. Again.
Correct.
Yeah.
Again, right.
So they're trying to take advantage of both sides of the equation, the naturopath and the Western medicine type of...
The allopathic care with the naturopathic. Right. This is very much like there's a big group out there that is talking about, their work with cancer and how natural they are. And their idea of natural, because I've talked to these people many times, is to give somebody a little bit of vitamin C with their chemo. That does not present natural medicine to me. No. I think that people should be able to have a clear choice. I am very scientific in what I do. I'm very much of a scientist and a meticulous person with this. I have a PhD in natural sciences as well. But if somebody wants to go to somebody that wears a grass skirt and waves snakes over their head, then they should have the right to do that. The government should not be dictating to you that who you have to see. And what the naturopathic physicians are trying to do is they're trying to say, well, look, we're almost like real MDs, and so you can send people to us. The big pharma and the drug industry will not cancel out these people because they do prescribe drugs. We don't. Right.
So I mean, my question is, if they're so close to modern medicine practice, what's the point of them being there?
They are, like I said, it mostly fills an insurance gap, and a lot of people are not quite comfortable enough to say that they want to do all natural medicine, so it makes them comfortable to think that these people are part allopathic and part naturopathic. Mm-hmm. But as I pointed out in my book, the things that you most need naturopathic medicine for, they're started to call it complementary medicine, which means that it's mixing allopath with naturopath. If you take something like cancer or something like that, the two cancel each other out. They're not complementary. No. Everything that a naturopath would do for cancer would be involving improving a person's immune system. And chemo and radiation are designed to destroy the immune system. So if you try and use the two together, they are not compatible. So they are trying to say that they are a mix, and like I said, mostly what they're trying to do is make it so that they can accept insurance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's all about the money then, basically, and that on that side of the equation.
Is most things, Mark?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I understand that recently Colorado passed a new law that makes your life difficult, if not miserable. Can you tell us about it?
Yeah. We had a new House, but it changed over our Congress in January, and boy, was that a game changer. There were all these new bills, and they passed one in particular, in my case, that ironically is called the Naturopathic Protection Act, which I think that if people in Congress actually read the bills, that it would probably make a difference of what they would pass, but something comes across their desk and it's called the Naturopathic Protection Act, and they go, oh, that, protect, that sounds good, and they sign it without knowing what's in it,
Right.
which is a big problem. I think we need to start calling bills, like the Puppy and Kitten Protection Act or something, because people just sign it without reading it. But what this one did for me was they are protecting my right to practice as long as I don't actually speak to my client. If we want to sit and play a nice hand of pinochle and they want to pay me money for that, then cool. But otherwise,
Right.
I'm not allowed to diagnose anything, and that means to the point that there was a naturopath in Minnesota who got in trouble because a guy said that his back hurt, and she recommended that he go to a chiropractor, that she felt he might have a disc problem, and they tried to shut her down for diagnosing a back problem.
Right.
If a person comes in and sneezes and I say, wow, that sounds like you might have a cold, then I could be in trouble for diagnosing. So that's how tight that rule is. So no diagnosing. No, I used to be able to talk to people about their drugs in terms of, let's say a person is taking blood pressure medication and their blood pressure is extremely low, then I could say to them, you need to go call your doctor and talk about your blood pressure medication. Okay, that's what I used to do. I could never recommend that anybody went off drugs, but I could recommend they talk to their doctor. I am no longer allowed to do that. I am not allowed to question the doctor whatsoever. We're not allowed to work with cancer, which that is what most naturopaths do, because the traditional cancer treatments of chemo and radiation don't work. And they're very uncomfortable, and a lot of people try to turn to natural medicine for that. So that cancels out about between 30 and 50% of most naturopaths' practices. But what they did in particular to me that became intolerable, because this has been going on over the years, that they've changed all these rules and regulations. But what they did to me is they said that I can no longer see any children at all under the age of 2 years of age at all. I can't even talk to their mothers. And any children between 2 and 8 have to be watched over by a pediatrician, and I have to hand out vaccine regulations and suggest that they do their vaccines. Now, this is like somebody that works at Alcoholics Anonymous being told that they have to tell other people that it's okay to take a drink once in a while. Telling people to take vaccines is so ethically against what I am, that they realized that none of us could actually do it. So instead of taking us out of practice, they tried to do that in another state and they just outlawed naturopathic medicine. But then people went, no, you can't do that. They went too far. And so naturopathic medicine is back in that state. So what they're telling people now is that they are giving us the right to practice as long as we stay within these confines. Now, the group that I told you about, the naturopathic physicians, they're the ones that are trying to get us all shut down. So another lovely caveat on this House Bill 1111 in Colorado is that my work has to be subjected to a group of them, a board that consists entirely of these naturopathic physicians that are trying to put me out of business in the first place, and I have to submit my work to them. And if they find anything wrong with it or anything I might have misspoke, I could be subject to jail time.
So that seems to be very unfair to my mind.
It's ludicrous.
Yeah.
And it's just taking more and more choice away from people. I have 6,500 clients, you guys. I've been in practice 13 years. I have clients from all 50 states and 13 foreign countries that have come to little Durango to see me. And their right has been taken away. And with all of the children that I work with that are on the autism spectrum and all of that, you can't imagine how up in arms their mothers are that I all of a sudden cannot even speak to them.
Yeah, I mean, that's something I'd like to pick up there, just to ask a question. So you don't have the same freedom to talk to somebody because you're a naturopathic practitioner that I have. I can go and talk to somebody and say, oh, it sounds like you've got a cold, it sounds like you've hurt your back or whatever, but you can't.
Exactly. And you can't imagine how much that burns me up. It's like there's some days I'm on Facebook, this morning, for example, and I was in looking at a group, on Facebook, and all of these people